Alright, hello and welcome. So, let's talk a little bit more about Excalibur Umbra. Last week I had a video come out and I went over some problems that Umbra was having, and I said as much that DE would likely fix some things with him. And it turns out they fixed literally every single complaint I had about Umbra. So I figured it was a good time to go over it again, just real quick, because in addition to that, I also changed my Exalted Blade build. But first and foremost, the changes that they made to Umbra. They sped up his 2 significantly. It is no longer super slow in comparison to the regular Excal 2, and is in fact maybe even a teensy bit faster, or at least it feels that way. So that ability is now not a downgrade, and is absolutely phenomenal, as you would expect from Excal. In addition to that, his Spectre form, whenever you jump out of him as your operator and you have him run around and kill guys, if he dies during this mode, you're no longer forced back into him. He'll just go dormant, like you would expect a regular Warframe to have that default standing pose they go into when you jump out. So that's great, and whenever you return to him, he will return to the health that you left him at, so there's literally no downside whatsoever. His passive is a pure upside now, and that's honestly just phenomenal. So that's great. So let's go over the changes I've made to the build, and I wanted to address a thing that is wrong with the UI in the Simulacrum, because this is not an issue with testing him or anything, because everything in testing works as it should, but in terms of the UI, over here on the left, I am using a Chromatic Blade build, and while it shows the stats of that correctly whenever I'm in the Lizette, whenever you're in the Simulacrum, it doesn't show these stats appropriately because this is a Corrosive Cold Chromatic Blade build utilizing Condition Overload and all that stuff. The main thing that I changed out here is putting Life Strike into this other sacrificial slot, or Umbra slot rather, and putting in Primed Pressure Point, because that extra damage is just worth it. I'm not going to put in the last Forma, the 4th Forma, to turn Voltaic Strike into the higher level Electric mod, just because that's so unnecessary, because enemies don't survive anyway. But I did want to make this change just because there's no really good reason to use Sacrificial Pressure when you could be using Primed Pressure Point. And it is worth noting, some reasons that I could find to switch out Spoiled Strike for a Fire mod so that you're a Corrosive Blast build, but in general I like to avoid knocking down enemies, so I've stuck with Cold damage. Anyway, the main build still just looks like this. I have considered, however, removing Avenger and putting in Energize just to make sure I never have any energy problems, but that hasn't really been a huge factor. So, really quickly, we're going to do the test that we would normally do again, just to show that it still absolutely obliterates, and also the new timing on his 2 can be shown off this way as well. But we all know there are going to be absolutely no issues with this for Umbra, just like there would be no issues with this for regular Excalibur. It absolutely destroys. Using a Corrosive Exalted Blade just means that armor, it just evaporates. It might as well just not exist, honestly. And as we all know, if you're making armor not exist in Warframe, you're basically able to kill whatever you want, because armor is the kind of only determining factor on whether or not an enemy can survive your damage, as long as you're using something that is worthwhile at all. Anyway, that has been the update video on Excalibur Umbra, and it's kind of here just to kind of commend what D has done, because I didn't expect to get changes to both his 2 and his passive, and they kind of just fixed the whole shebang, and that's great. So yeah, console players, if you're watching this video, this is likely what you're going to get Umbra launched as. So enjoy it when it comes out, and I will see you guys tomorrow.